So today we will go over 4.1 and 4.2, and we will be skipping 4.3 and 4.4 that will be done in your next class, which is pre-calculus. And then we'll jump to chapter 5. And then once we finish chapter 5, you will have your finals. So your finals will consist of chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. Chapter 4, you only got 2 sections, 4.1 and 4.2. And then chapter 9.1, we have another one. Is after chapter 5, we have 9.1, which is a very easy section to do. So we have like another 4 more weeks left. So before your finals. So before I continue with the class, I just want to point out about your finals. Since after Thanksgiving, there's no longer any more on-campus activities. So that means that I cannot give you a proctor test during your finals. So all your final tests in this case will be a Zoom testing. And this is just a reminder for you guys. When do you have it? It's on Monday, December 14th. The time is from 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. So I would suggest you guys, those who are going have work on Monday, I will really suggest you to take Monday off, the December 14th for your finals. You can take half day if you want, or go later, or take 3 hours off or something else. It starts from 1 o'clock to 2:30. Here is the link for the Zoom testing. It will be consist of chapter 3, 4, 5, and 9.1. And as usual, there will be a 30 minutes before the final times that is a review for your finals, 12:30 to 1 o'clock, and then you start taking the test at 1 o'clock. You require a laptop or computer with webcams and mic, internet connections, scientific calculators, papers, and writing tools. So please make sure you guys got all these, especially with the scientific calculators. How do you submit it? Once you finish your test, you scan all the papers that you wrote on and then send to me via college email. You can use your scanner at home if you have one, or if you don't have one, you can download a CAM scanner app or other apps in your cell phone. So if you guys does not know how to use a CAM scanner or your scanner or something else, I would strongly suggest, because it's Thanksgiving, you guys have time to go home and right now and then scan like 2-3 pieces of papers, any random documents, and send it to me to my college email so I know you get it right or wrong, because a lot of students do at the last minute. They kind of doing the last minute stuff, and they kind of struggling and having a breakdown and stuff like that. So if you need help, please let me know. Okay, so this is your final test now. So we do not meet in school for your finals. We do Zoom testing. Questions you guys have for these finals before we move on to our 4.1 and 4.2? Anyone? Questions? All right, so we're gonna move to 4.1 now. 4.1 is where we talk about finding the chapter 4 is about rational functions. So some of you were asking me, what is a rational function? A rational function is denoted by this. It's a fraction. Nx over dx. Nx is a polynomial functions, and dx is also polynomial functions. So if you make nx over dx is called a rational function. So the whole chapter 4 in this 4.1 and 4.2 in this case, we are talking about this kind of rational functions. Every time when you have a rational functions, the first thing we mention is your domain. So every time when you have a rational function, the domain is always all real numbers except the x value that makes the denominator become 0. So make sure you guys know how to figure out your domain, because we did this in chapter 2, I believe. So make sure you guys know how to find your domain in this case. And every time when you have a rational functions, we have asymptotes. So a vertical asymptote is an asymptote that goes vertically. In order for you to write this vertical asymptote, you have to write x equals to a number a. And a lot of students in your online homework, they just give me 5. And your online homework mark you wrong. The reason why is because you have to give to me x equals to 5. So same thing happens in your finals. if I want you to find the vertical or the horizontal asymptote, make sure you give me x equals to a number for vertical, and horizontal is y equals to a number. So make sure you guys give me those. Okay, very, very important, because a lot of students email me and say, why my answer is wrong? It's very easy, because you forgot to put x equals to and y equals to. Okay, so my question is, how do you find these asymptotes? Okay, so in order for us to find your vertical and your horizontal asymptotes, first thing is that your rational functions that you have has no common factors. What does that mean when I say no common factors? It means that when you get this kind of rational functions, you have to factor it. And once you factor it, sometimes they have a same factor or a common factor that you have to cancel them out. So when you have such case, you have to cancel all your common factors out first before you find your asymptotes. A lot of students just jump straight to the asymptotes without doing these common factors. That's why in your test you get it wrong. So how do you find the vertical asymptote? The vertical asymptote is actually the zeros of dx. Again, 0 means solution. So what you do is you set your denominator equals to 0. Okay. So in this case, if a question is asking us for 0 of dx, means you set your denominator equals to 0, and then you solve for x. And that will be your vertical asymptote. And don't forget, your answer is always x equals to something. Okay. One thing for sure about this vertical asymptote is you never cross it. Okay. So when you draw a graph, your rational function will never cross your vertical asymptote. Never. Okay. In order for us to find your horizontal asymptote, your horizontal asymptote in this case is determined by your powers, your degrees. So n is a degree for the top one, m is a degree for the bottom one. So if n, the degree of top one, is less than the degree of m, then you will have y equals to 0, or in other words, x-axis as your horizontal asymptote. So for example, in this case is if you look at, if you have a rational function, and if this is x, and this is x squared, I don't care, plus whatever you want, I don't, you know what you have behind. So since what the power on here is 1, the top power is 1, and the bottom power is 2, and we know 1 is less than 2, so we know this one will have a horizontal asymptote of y equals to 0. And yes, you can use a shortcut in my test because horizontal and vertical asymptote is very long to write. So you can use HA for horizontal asymptote, VA for vertical asymptotes. So this is for if you have this kind of function, then your horizontal asymptote will be 0. What happens if you have exactly the same power? That means the top and the bottom power is the same. Then you have your horizontal asymptote is going to be the leading coefficients of the ratio of the leading coefficients of this. So what does that mean in this case? For example, is if you have x equals to, let's say, 2x squared plus something behind, over by 3x squared plus whatever something behind. So since this power is 2 and this power is 2, the power is exactly the same. So you will have a horizontal asymptote of y equals to an over bn. What is an in this case? An is the leading coefficient of the top one, which is 2. And bm in this case is a leading coefficient of the bottom one, which is 3. So this is how you figure out your horizontal asymptote if the power is the same. And for the last one is if your top power is greater than your bottom power, we will have no horizontal asymptote. So when you do your 4.1 homework, if this case happens, you put DNE or does not, you leave it blank, sorry. So when you do your 4.1 homework, if you have such case, you leave your answer blank. So do not use DNE. Okay, so a lot of students, they say, oh, this one, no horizontal asymptote. I will say no or DNE or something else. Your online will mark you wrong, so you leave it blank. However, if you're doing 4.2 homework, so be careful what homework you do, and your finals, so make sure that when you have finals, you do this, then we will call this as your slain asymptote or oblique asymptote. And in order for you to find this, it is going to be y equals to mx plus b. And you have to use syntactic division. I will show it to you when we guys did 4.2 here. Okay, so later on you will do 4.2 here. So, so make sure you guys know what happens when you guys did in your task, because in your online homework, when you do 4.1, you leave it blank. Otherwise, in 4.2, you leave it, you have to find the syntactic division. So for example, if you want to do the third case here is will look something like this. So this is the example where the top power here is 2 and the bottom power here is 1. So in this case, your power is 2 is greater than 1. So your horizontal in this case is DNE, because your top power is greater than, so you do not have a horizontal asymptote. But again, in your online homework, you leave it blank. So, but when you do your 4.2 homework in this case, you will have what we call as a slain asymptote. And how do you find this same asymptote is you have to use syntactic division. Remember, you did this in chapter 3. So, so this x minus 2, you have to make it equal to 0 and solve for x, and that is 2. And that 2 should be written down here. And then the leading coefficient of the coefficients of the top one goes in the one over that. 2, negative 3, and 4. This is what you guys did in chapter 3. And then as usual, you drop that 2 here. And then you multiply 2 times 2 is 4. And then you add this one, you get 1. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And then you add becomes 6. This is what we call as your remainder last time in chapter 3. But in this chapter 4 or 4.2 and your finals, this remainder will not be used to do your slain asymptote. So your slain asymptote in this case is going to be y equals to 2x plus 1. Where do we get the 2x plus 1? It comes from your quotient here. So this is what you guys need to do when the question asking you to find the slain asymptote. Y equals to 2x. This is how we figure out y equals 2x plus 1. So this is for, again, 4.2. But if you do your 4.1 homework, for this case, you leave it blank. If you put DNE, they will mark you wrong in this case. So this is how we do, how you find your asymptotes in this case. Class, if you do not know how to do this finding asymptote in this case, I just want to point out to you that say goodbye to the entire chapter 4. So this that I show it to you here, this whole how to find this, I put a star on it. It means that this is very, very important. Okay. So does anyone have any questions for me before we start looking at your 4.1 homework? Anyone have any questions for me? Anyone have any questions for 4.1 homework? I will talk about how we do question 3, 4, 5, and so on. Anyone have any questions for me with your 4.1 homework? Let's take a look at question number 8 here. You guys are really quiet today. This question wants you to figure out your vertical and your horizontal asymptote in this case. So the first thing is, how do you figure out your vertical asymptote? Anyone? How do you figure out your vertical asymptote? Mercedes, Justin, Eric?
The denominator equals 0, right?
Yep, set your denominator equals to 0 and solve for x. So you set the 9 plus 2x equals to 0 and solve for x. What do you guys get when you solve for x?
-9/2.
-9/2. And when you write this in the vertical asymptote, make sure you put the x equals 2, because if you give me -9/2, they will mark you wrong. Okay, so make sure you use x equals 2, otherwise you will get it wrong. Again, this is my second time telling you. Same thing in your finals. If you didn't give me x equals 2, I will take half a point off. Next, look at your power. What power do we have for the top one?
-7, right?
The power is 1. And what power we have on the bottom one?
Also 1.
Also 1. So which rule apply? Is that the first one, the second one, or the third one? Is
The third one.
Is a top power less than? Is these two power, are they less than, equal to, or greater than?
It's the same.
They are the same. So if they are the same, then you have to use the second one. And how do we use, if they're the same, how do you find your horizontal asymptote in this case? Is the leading coefficient. What is the leading coefficient of the top one?
-7.
It's -7. And what is the leading coefficient of the bottom one?
2.
2. So this is your horizontal asymptote. Again, make sure you put y equals 2. So if you don't put y equals 2, they will mark you wrong. You guys all right here? Questions with this kind? Again, you need to know this before you move on to chapter 4.2. How about question number 9? F of x equals to 8x squared over by x plus 7. You guys do it for me now. Everyone do it for me. I want you guys to find the vertical asymptote in this case. And then after that, the horizontal asymptote in this case. So I want everyone here to do this. Private message me if you have, yeah, this is very easy. This is supposed to be very easy. You should know. Private message me. Don't put it in the chat me, but private message me. Don't put it for everyone to see it. Eric, you got it right straight away. Again, class, you need to know how to do this before we move on to the next section, because if you cannot do this, say goodbye. This is very easy. Not that difficult, actually. Yep, that is correct. Eric. Justin, Mercedes, Bohar, Karishma, what is your vertical and your horizontal asymptote in this case? Again, this is 4.1. We don't need to find slant asymptote here or oblique asymptote. Yep, that is correct, Bohar. This is a question I'm asking. Number 9. So again, like what we do here is to find the vertical asymptote, you set your denominator becomes 0. So this is easy. X equals to -7 is your vertical asymptote here. This is very easy. This is as easy as that. The next thing I want to point out to you is horizontal asymptote. What power do we have on top here?
2.
2, yep. And the power we have on the bottom?
1.
Is 1. And in this case, 2 is greater than 1. So which one should we use? The first choice, the second choice, or the third choice?
Third.
The third one. And that means that you don't have a horizontal asymptote in this case. But in your homework, you do not need to put D and E. So what you do here in your homework for question number 9 is just x equals to -7. That's it. Do not put comma D and E or no or what. Don't do that. Just leave it as that. You guys all right here? Questions you guys have for me? All right. So the rest of them is very much, oh, let's do one of them that can be factored. Let's do 11. Now, the first two questions that we did is very straightforward. But in question 11 is something that you need to be careful. Okay. So I'm going to point out to you guys. So a lot of students say, oh, to find the vertical asymptote, I set this denominator equals to 0 and solve for x, and then after that I can find my horizontal asymptote later on. Yes, Eric, that is good. That is wrong in this case. The reason why it's wrong is because that don't forget the first step when you guys do this is you have to get rid of the common factor. So that's the reason why that the first two examples that you cannot factor it, like 9 minus 7x and 9 plus 2x and 8x squared or x plus 7. These are all non-factorable. So that's why you do not need to worry about common factor because there's no common factor here. But x squared minus 9 can be factored. What is a factor for x squared minus 9?
X minus 3 and x plus 3.
Yes. So this is what we talk about the first thing when you guys did the rule of it has to have no common factor before you even talk about your asymptotes here. So here, when you look at this example, it does have a common factor of x plus 3. So it will cancel out. So what you left in this case is 1 over x minus 3. So this is the rational functions that you guys have to use to find the asymptotes in this case. So can someone tell me, Eric know already, what is the vertical asymptote in this case? Again, you set your denominator equals to 0. What you get? X equals to what? This is very easy. Yep, this is 3. So this is your vertical asymptote. Now, in order for us to find your horizontal asymptote, you look at your power. So what power do we have on this one?
It's a 1 over 2.
No. What power we have on the top one?
0.
No. 0, yes, it is power is. So don't forget that if you have an x, it's a power 1. If you have an x squared, it's power 2. If you don't have any x on it, the power is 0. And what power we have on the bottom one?
Just 1.
Is 1 because we have power x1 here. So which one should we use here? Is that first case, second case, or third case?
First case, y equals 0.
Yep, it's first case is because 0 is less than 1. So your horizontal asymptote in this case will be y equals to 0. So in order for you to do question number 11, your answer is x equals to 3 and y equals to 0. So be careful with this one, especially the factoring here. A lot of students forget to do this factoring, like number 11 here, forget to factor it. And that was why you got a wrong answer. A lot of students get x equals to 3 and x equals to -3. This is wrong because of the cancellation common factor. Questions for me? You guys okay here with the finding your asymptotes? Anyone have any questions before we move on to the next one? Okay, no question. If you want to take a picture, go ahead and take the picture of this. Okay, if you need to, because I will start a new one and we'll talk about domain and end behavior. Okay, so we'll talk about domain and end behavior next. So if you need a picture, go take it now before I start a new piece here. So I'm gonna start a new piece here. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about here is your domain of a rational functions. Your domain in this case is all real numbers except x equals to whatever your denominator becomes 0. This is something that you guys already know, and this is only work for rational function. Okay, this is now. Then my question is, when you find the domain here, do you need to do the common factor? Remember last time that question that we have? Do you need to worry about do you need to do the common factor first? So example is the example that we just did just now. X plus 3 over by x squared minus 9. So last time we find the vertical and the horizontal asymptote, right? Now we're talking about domain in this case. So my question to you is, do we need to find this common factor?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Yep, the answer is no. Okay, so that means that your denominator, to find your domain in this case, what you do is you set this denominator becomes 0 and you solve for x. So x squared equals to 9. X in this case is plus minus 3. So your domain in this case is all real numbers except x equals to plus minus 3. So this is your domain that we have. So make sure you guys know the difference between the domain and the vertical asymptote, because the vertical asymptote is also what? Denominator equals to 0, right? Like, wait a minute, these two are the same, but don't forget, this one you have to do the common factor first before you do find the vertical and the horizontal. So make sure you guys know the difference between the domain and the vertical asymptote. I know they look the same. Both of them are denominator equals to 0, but one of them you have to do the common factor first, the other one you do not. Questions with this one? Okay, next thing is your end behavior. Now, what is end behavior is? End behavior is where if you have a vertical asymptote, the end behavior says that this can goes up or this can goes down, or this can goes up or this can goes down. So let's say that this vertical asymptote is x equals to a number a. So this is a here. So this side is called a plus, and this side is called a minus. So what do we do with this end behavior? In this case is we want to figure out what happens when this a approaching to the right side. It's approaching to the right. And what happens when the a is approaching to the left? And your answer is either if it's go up means it goes to infinity. If it's go down means it goes to negative infinity. So what do we do here is we take a number that is very close to this number a on the right side and very close number a to the left side. This is the one that a lot of students didn't do in the test very well, I can tell you, because a lot of students do not do this in the test. So remember last time when we do this question on this function that we have, in order for us to find the vertical asymptote, we have to factor this. This is what we did just now. And then we cancel this one. So what we got here is x equals to 3. So what happens in this case is this is the end behavior type. So this is 3. So you have to figure out what happens when it is 3 minus. What is 3 minus? 3 minus means a number that is very close to 3, but is on the left side. So what do I mean in this case is you have to take a number that is so close to 3 that is on the left. Anyone know what number should we use here? That is very close to 3 but on the left side. Anyone? We will use this number, not 1, not 2. We will use 2.99999. The more nines you put, the better. But again, actually it's a bunch of nines. So what we are checking here is this going to infinity or negative infinity? So what do I do is I plug this 2.999 over here. And I just want to figure out the sign. Is that positive or negative? Now, since the one on top is a positive, so this is a positive. And then 2.9999 minus 3, you will get a negative. So this positive divided by negative is negative infinity. So this telling us that this graph will actually goes down or go to negative infinity at 3 minus. So how do you write this is x approaching 3 minus f of x approaching negative infinity. So this is how we write this type of question. Okay, this is 3 minus, not 3 plus. Next, we will use the 3 plus 1, which is on this side. And now we will use a number that is very close to 3 on the right side. And that number is 3.00001. And we will use this, plug it into your x here. And we want to figure out, are we getting a positive or negative? Again, we got 1 on top, so that means this is a plus. And then 3.000001 minus 3, you will also get positive. And positive divided by positive, you will get positive infinity. So this telling us that this graph will goes up. So how do we write this? As x approaching 3 plus, f of x will approach infinity. So this is how you do this kind of questions for what we call as your end behavior. And yes, in your finals, you have to do this. Very important. That's why you need to know how to do those. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to do question number 5. Question number 5. So question 5 is given us by this. F of x equals to 2x over by x squared minus 9. So what is your domain in this case? The first question is asking us for domain. Anyone know what's the domain in this case? All real numbers. Don't forget in your test, give me all real numbers, except a lot of students just give me x equals to plus minus 3 like this. You get it wrong. So make sure that you give me x equals to plus minus all real numbers except x equals to plus minus 3, which is exactly the same as what we have here, because x squared minus 9 is that. So your answer in this case will be D. Okay. You guys all right here so far with the domain piece, which is the easy one. Now we will talk about your end behavior. This is the one that a lot of students struggle. So what kind of, how many vertical asymptotes do we have in this case? Anyone know how many vertical asymptotes we have in this case? Last time you only got 1 because of a cancellation. So how many vertical asymptotes do we have in this case? You just find x
it's 2, right?
Yep, it's 2. X equals to what? Hmm? 3 and negative 3. which is the same as this fellow, because there's no cancellation between these two. Okay. So what happens in this case that now, last time we got one vertical asymptote, you're going to do twice. This time you got two vertical asymptote. One is at -3 and one is at +3. You're going to do it 4 times. One time is at -3 minus, which is the left side. Then you have a -3 plus, which is this side. And then you have to do 3 minus. And then you have to do 3 plus. So you're going to do 4 times of this. So let's start with this one. So what number should we use for x in this case? That is on the left side of a -3. Anyone? What number should we use here? That is on the left side of -3. You guys know number lines, right? Eric, Bohar, Justin?
-3, negative.
Negative what?
Infinity, right?
No, a number that is close to the left side on the -3.
-2.999.
Nope, -2.999 is over here.
Oh, so -3.0.
Yep. Make sure you guys know where is your -3.0001, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you need to plug this into your x. So can you tell me what you get when you plug -3.001 times 2? Do you get a positive or you get a negative?
Negative.
You get a negative, yep. And what happens when you put -3.001 square and then -9? You can use your calc. I just want to figure out, are they negative or are they positive? I don't want the value. So if you want, you can look at your calculator. You put what? -3. Oh my God, I hate my calculator. -3.0001 negative, and you square it, right? And then you -9. What you get is a positive number. And what happens when you got negative divided by positive? You will get a negative infinity. So this means that this fellow will go down on the left side. This, as what Eric says, we're gonna use -2.9999999 here. So I want you guys to take this -2.9999, plug it to the x value here, and tell me, do you got a negative on top or whatever, you know, what we have when you plug in here. This is easy. -2.999 times 2 give us negative.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you take -2.999 square -9? Do you get a negative number or you get a positive number?
I think I'm gonna get negative. Negative.
Yes, you will get a negative number. So 2 negative, when you divide, it become what?
Positive.
Positive. So that means that this will go up. So down here, up there. Now we're gonna use this number. So what number is very close to 3 on the left side? What number that's close to 3 on the left side?
299.
299, yep, 2.9999999. Now plug this into your x and figure out, are they negative or positive? So 2.99999 times 2 is a positive.
Yep.
2.99999 squared minus 9 is a positive or negative?
It's a negative.
It's negative. And this will give me what? Negative infinity. So this will goes down. And finally, we're going to use this 3 plus. So can someone tell me what number should we use for 3 plus?
3.0001.
Yep. So it's kind of like the same thing as what we did here, but it's in the opposite direction because it's negative. This is part. And what we do here is plug this back into your x. So we know 3.001 times 2 is going to be positive. And what is 3.00001 squared minus 9? Is that plus or minus?
Positive.
This is positive. So this one will give me positive infinity. So this goes up. So if I want to draw a graph, I can tell you that this graph will look something like this because it goes down. And then in the middle, it looks like a cube. Because this is up, this is down. And then on the side, it will go like this. I can tell you the graph will look like this. That's why your end behavior is very, very important. So how do we write this end behavior now once you got all these plus and minus? So you just link up the plus one. The plus one is this, which one goes to positive? This one goes to positive, right? And this one also goes to positive. So this will be going to the positive infinity. So when x approach negative 3 plus and 3 plus, f of x will approach infinity. And then for the negative infinity is this one and this one. So we do the 3 minus. So in this case, when x approaching negative 3 minus and 3 minus, f of x will approach negative infinity. So this is how you write this up. And if you are going to calculus, this is what we call as limit. So when you go to calculus, make sure you guys know how to write it. So which one you think is the right answer in this case? A, B, C, D, or E? Sorry, I'm moving.
B, right?
It will be B. Yes, this one will be B. F of x goes to negative infinity when these are go negative and positive. Now, a lot of students say, David, is that always like that? When you see a 3 minus, it always goes to negative infinity. If you got pluses, it goes to positive infinity. The answer is no. It's not always like that. It's just coincidentally, this question, it looks something like this. Okay, not always like that. You guys good with my end behavior? This is called end behavior, or they call it behavior f near and excluded x values. So if you need, sometimes I use the word end behavior. Questions you guys have on this one? You guys good? All right. So anyone have any questions for me on 4.1?
Yes.
Yeah, what question?
23.
23. 22. What? 4.1? There's no 23.
Oh, maybe that's the other one. Sorry.
Okay. 22 is a maximum.
Yeah, that's
okay.
at 4.2.
Okay, 4.2. Now we're going to talk about 4.2 here. Now, as I told you before, in your finals, it's not going to be multiple choice that, oh, draw this one out. No. So in your it's not going to be like this. So I want to tell you what it looks like in your finals, so you know what's going on. So I'm going to do one question that's a bit more tough. Maybe this one, number 10. Now, this kind of questions in your finals is worth, oh, by the way, do you guys need to take a pictures for this end behavior? Go ahead if you need a picture or something else. And those, I just want to tell you that if you want to graph, 4.2 is graphing rational function, that worth around 10 to 12 points. One question worth 10 to 12 points, and where you put all the things you learn in 4.1 together, and then you begin to graph it. Okay, so what you learn in 4.1, finding the vertical and the horizontal and the slate and the asymptote, finding the domain, get the end behavior. Those are everything that we're going to use in order for us to graph. So I will tell you how to do this question. And this worth 12, I think 10 to 12 points in your finals. So this is question 10. Hx equals to x squared over by x squared minus 36. So yes, the first question they ask you is to find the domain, like what we have here. So does anyone know how to find your domain in this question? All real numbers, except what?
Plus or minus 6.
Plus and minus 6. So your answer in this case, again, is not multiple choice. Okay, so this is what you need to give it to me as your answer in your test. The plus and minus 6 come from your denominator. Next, you have to identify your x-intercept and your y-intercept. So pay attention here for those students who do not know, haven't done this yet, or who still no clue. In order for us to find your x-intercept, you set your numerator become 0. Let me repeat. In order for us to find the x-intercept, you set your numerator become 0. So our numerator in this case is x squared. And when you make x squared equals to 0, x in this case is 0. And don't forget, for intercepts, x or y, you have to put your answer in coordinates form. That's why your answer is 0, 0. How do you find your y-intercept? In order for us to find intercept, you substitute x to become 0 into this equation. So you got 0 squared over by 0 squared minus 36. So this is how you find your x or your y-intercept. You plug x here to become 0. 0 squared is 0. 0 squared minus 36 is negative 36. This is still 0. So that means that your x and y intercept is 0, 0 origin. So for this is the answer for him. This will be 0, 0. And in your online homework, if it does not exist, you put D and E, like last time. So far, so good? And yes, in your finals, the question will be given parts like this, which will help you. That means that question, let's say question 10, this question is in your finals. A, I want you to find the domain. B, I want you to find the intercepts. C, I want you to find the vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So how do you find your vertical and your horizontal asymptote? Is first thing first, do these have any common factor you can cancel? Can we cancel anything on this question? Can you cancel anything here? Can you cancel your x squared here? Can you do this? Don't do that. You get a 0. So that is nothing, no common factor here. So what is your vertical asymptote in this case?
Plus or minus 6.
X equals to plus minus 6. If I can tell you that, class, if you can, there's no common factor, your vertical asymptote and your domain is the same. If there is no common factor, that means nothing can be canceled here. This 2 is the same. What is your power we have on top?
2.
2. Oh, it's the power we have on the bottom.
2.
Also 2. So they are equal. So remember what kind of horizontal asymptote is what? Y equals to the leading coefficient ratio. This is 1. This is 1. So 1 over 1 is
1.
1. You guys with me here so far with all this? Next one is D. Now please pay attention here. D is not this one. Okay, not this one. D is asking is, does the h of x cross your HA? Now, as I told you before that your rational function will never cross your vertical asymptote. That means either go infinity or negative infinity. And sometimes the function will cross on the horizontal asymptote. So how do we figure out that if this is yes or no? If it's yes, you have to figure out what is the coordinates of this. So how do you figure this one out? Please pay attention because these are all what I'll ask you in the finals. So how do we do this is you set your horizontal asymptote equals to your, you set your function equals to your horizontal asymptote. Our function in this case is x squared over by x squared minus 36. And your horizontal asymptote in this case is 1 from part C. So you are trying to solve for x here. So how do we solve for x is I multiply both sides with x squared minus 36. So this is cancelled. 1 times is get the same thing. So I get x squared equals to x squared minus 36. And I begin to solve for x. So when I subtract x squared on both sides, this is gone. And we don't have any x left here. So if you cannot, because all your x is all cancel out, or x squared, everything is cancel out, you cannot solve this. So does the horizontal, do this cross your horizontal asymptote? The answer is no. Okay, but what happens that if you have x equals to 5? That means that at the location 5, 1, yes, it will cross over there. The 5 came from whatever you solve. The 1 came from the horizontal. So when you guys have such thing, then it will cross on your horizontal asymptote. So this question actually does not cross your horizontal. So this is very important. Next, end behavior. Remember the end behavior we just did? So we're going to do the same thing here. So we have to draw this. And yes, in your test, make sure you draw me your axis, your x and y axis. Make sure you give me your asymptotes. Your asymptote has to be in dashed line. So this is your vertical asymptote at -6. And this is a vertical asymptote at 6. If you don't draw me your vertical asymptote lines, you get 1 point off automatically from your graph. Y equals to 1. Y equals to 1 is this one. So make sure you guys draw me all this asymptote. And you told me that it has an x-intercept and y-intercept at 0, 0, which is this one. So now you need to figure out your end behavior. Remember, last time we used the end behavior. So this one is called a -6 minus, right? So can someone tell me what number should we use here for this side?
-6.0001.
Yep. Now plug this inside here. So what is -6.001 squared? Positive or negative? This will give me positive, because when you square, it becomes positive. What is -6.0001 squared minus 36? You get positive or negative?
Negative.
when you square this, you get what is 6.001 squared. And then you minus 36, you get what?
Positive.
It's a positive number. And what happens when you divide two positive? You get positive or negative?
Positive.
So you get positive infinity, means this graph will go up. Now I want you guys to figure out what happens at negative 6 minus. Again, you have to tell me what number you use. And then figure out, are we going positive or negative infinity? So what number is on the right side here? Oh, sorry, 6 plus. Sorry. Negative 6 plus on the right side. If you are going to calculus, this is called limits. Anyone know what number should use in this side? Anyone? Negative what?
5.9999.
And plug this inside here. Again, when you square this, it's positive. Whereas negative 5.999 squared minus 36, positive or negative?
You're negative, right?
It'd be negative. So this came out to be negative infinity, means this goes down. Next, we do 6 minus. So what will be the best one for, what number should we use for 6 minus? X equals to what?
5.9999.
And plug it back into this function. 5.999 squared is a positive. And what is 5.999 squared minus 36? A positive or negative infinity? This will give me a negative infinity in this case. So this will goes down. And the last one we use is 6 plus. And that number is 6.000001, which is this number over here. And when you plug this, both of these will give me a positive infinity. That means this goes up. So this is, we call the end behavior. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is F, the graph. Now with this, you can graph this. So here you can tell these ones will go all the way up like that. And this will turn sideways because D tells us that you cannot cross on all the asymptotes. Okay. This one on the middle part is going to be going down here. And then it will go like a parabola, open downwards. Oops, sorry. So it will be a parabola open downwards like that. And the last one that we have is going to be on this side and it's going up. And then it also curves like that and it goes down like that. And again, because of part D, you cannot cross over all those things. So this is how we do question, this kind of questions. So in your finals, it's going to worth 10 to 12 points here. Because every single one you did here worth points. So make sure you guys know how to do this. This is very, very important. And it's not going to be like your multiple choice here, that this answer is going to be like him. Okay, because you can tell it's with this one. So which looks very similar to this. You guys with me here?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you practice this. And those students who I will recommend, if you still doesn't know, I will recommend you to watch this. These are the 9 steps of graphing rational functions. So please go ahead and watch this. It's in D2L. They are all in here. So what happens if you have a hole? What happens when you have a slain asymptote? How you find it and so on. So I would, and this is all done by me, not by other ones. So please go and watch these videos. This is very, very important. Okay. All right. The last question we're going to talk about here is question 23, the last question. So if you got something like this, means you have a slain asymptote. What is a slain asymptote? A slain asymptote means your asymptote is going to be y equals to mx plus b. So that's why when you have a graph that looks something weird like this, it means you have a slain asymptote. 23. Okay, this is a hard one. You guys need to take pictures of this one. Go ahead and take pictures before I start the last question. And yes, question 23 is not going to be in your finals. This question is going to be like this kind of questions will be in your finals. So make sure you guys know how to do it. You guys good, right? And I'm going to go on to the last question 23 here. So this question 23 is given us the backwards way, means that I give you all the asymptotes and the zeros. You have to give me the functions. Last time I gave you the functions, you give me the asymptotes. Now I do the backward style. So they give us that the vertical asymptote in this case is x equals to 2. They give us that the slain asymptote in this case is y equals to x plus 1. And then the zero of the function is x equals to -2. So the question is asking us to give us the rational function for this case. So first thing you need to know here is that your vertical asymptote is always in your denominator. Your zero or your solution is always in your numerator. So with this, you kind of figure out what is your denominator and your numerator. Denominator in this case is x minus 2. How I make it x minus 2 is you have to put this in the factor form. Remember how you put in the factor form? If x is equals to 2, then the factor form is x minus 2. This one is in the numerator. So put it in the, again, in the factor form. You will get x plus 2. Okay. Now the question in this case is, because as you know that when you have a slain asymptote, your numerator power is greater than your denominator power. But if you look at this, the power is exactly the same. If you're exactly the same, you don't have a slain asymptote. So that means that this fellow has to be multiplied by something. Let's say A. Because when you FOIL this one out, this will become x squared. And this will become x. So we know with this case, you will have a slain asymptote because the top power is greater than the bottom power. So my question is, how do you figure out A? Because if you know how to find A, you will able to, to get your answer. Okay. So how do we do this? Is you make this equation equals to the slain asymptote, which is x plus 1. And then try to solve for x in this case. So I will multiply the x minus 2 to this side. Again, I leave this as x plus 2 and x plus A. This will give me x squared plus minus, not plus, it's minus x minus 2. And if you FOIL this, I will get x squared plus 2x plus ax plus 2a. Okay. And in the middle term, we can factor out the x. So we get 2 plus a. So this middle term is the most important thing, is because now you can find a by taking your middle term and solve it. So this give me 2 plus a. This give me -1. So what is a in this case? So again, you void this fellow and you void that fellow, and you only take the middle term. We don't take the last term, the c term. We take the middle term. So what is a in this case, class?
-3.
-3. So now you put your, then you know your answer here. So your answer in this case is f of x equals to x plus 2. X, the a now we know is a -3 over by x minus 2. So this is your answer in this case. Okay. If they mark you wrong, you just void it out. Let's void this one out. You get x squared minus x minus 6. So your answer in this case will be x squared minus x minus 6. And your denominator is x minus 2. And this is how you do this question. You guys all right?
Yes.
And then in order for you to graph this, it's very easy because they give you all the asymptotes. So you just graph this using the asymptote. So x equals to 2 is your asymptote. This is your asymptote for x equals to 2. X plus 1. How do you graph this? Is your y, when you graph x plus 1, this is your slope is 1. Your y-intercept is 1. So since your y-intercept is 0, 1, and your slope is 1 over 1, so you get this asymptote. This is your slain asymptote, y equals to x plus 1. And then your 0 is at -2. I think -2 is somewhere here. Maybe somewhere here, -2. Again, I don't have a graph paper. Make sure you use a graph paper. So a -2 is somewhere here. So you kind of know that this graph will go something like this. And then maybe somewhere like that. If you want to know how to do this, you just plug in numbers. You can plug x to become 3 into this equation. Put 3 here, put 3 here, and put 3 here, and see what number you get. And then you can plug in like 1 in here and see where you get. And if let's say you get your answer is somewhere in the -5 here, and the 3 you get like 8, then you know the graph looks something like this. And they will, when you have a slain asymptote, they will never cross. So this graph will look something similar to what I just draw over there. Okay, so it looks something like no, like oh, maybe it's -2. I think it's this, either this one or this one. I think it's this one because it's crossed. No, yeah, I think it's this one because it crossed at -2. This one doesn't cross at -2 at all. So it's this one. So make sure you guys know which one to use, especially when you plot the graph on this case. Okay, so it's very important. That is correct. Yep. Oh, yep, that's correct. I know someone have a question. Anyone have any questions for me here before we end? Yep. So if you have any questions, I'm going to stop this. So